Super excited for you guys to be here on our Wellness Wednesdays. We'll get started here in just a second. Appreciate you guys taking some time to be with us here tonight. You're part of a group. We call this Wellness Wednesday, and we're a group of individuals that have met as we've discovered some different products through a company that allowed us to flip on switches inside our body so we can heal better and do more. And my name is Dr. Brett Brimhall. I've been in the nutritional field for a long time, 25 years. Dr. Hatch actually longer than me. We're actually first cousins, and we are excited to share with you and be a part of this because there's so many people's lives that are changing. And I heard a couple of stories today that, again, remind me every day of why I'm so grateful that I get to partner with individuals like those that are on this to share this message, because people only come to me based on somebody sharing with them like who we are. And there are many people looking for answers to health struggles and life struggles, and to be a part of a group that we focus on doing that is just so exciting. So Wellness Wednesday is designed to bring anybody, no matter who they are, where they're from, and what companies they're part of, and to give them some things that they can do absolutely to help their health. And Dr. Hatch, I know he did his last week, and he did absolutely amazing. Just an introduction for him. He'd been in practice 27 years. And he has his own story, but it started like many of ours, with his own health struggle, and he had somebody help him. And because of that experience, he decided to do really his whole life and what was done for him. And now we get to do this on a broader scale by taking these things online like this. So Dr. Hatch, thank you for using your 27 years of clinical experience and thousands of hours of education to help us, help our own selves, and help our families, and to share with us some of the information that will make us better. So if you would, take it away. Excited to hear from you.
Well, thanks, Dr. Brimhall. How's everybody doing tonight? Had a short night last night, but it was an amazing day yesterday. So I'm glad to have short nights with amazing days. So it makes it a lot of fun. So, I last week I talked about allergies. I talked about some of the things that's going on in our body that creates a lot of inflammation and a lot of different problems. And we talked about a little bit about gluten. I brought up that word. I brought up some things of air pollution and different things that interfere with our body and creates problems. So I want to actually just kind of spin off of that a little bit and continue with that theme a little bit. I just want to share a couple of amazing books that I just want to share with you guys here first off as I get started. Some of my favorite reading books. This is what I do when I'm really bored in the middle of the night. This is a book called Excitotoxins, A Taste That Kills. Okay. I realize that there's over 48 different excitotoxins that's put into our foods. Okay, that literally make us crave foods, and that also breaks our body down. So think back about the days and the years ago. Who can eat one Dorito? Can anybody just eat one Dorito? You eat one Dorito and then you want another, right? So this is an example of those excitotoxins that I'm talking about. That's the taste that kills. Okay, one Dorito comes in and it creates something that we all have in our body. And there's one thing that causes all the disease process in our body. And this is what we kind of been talking about a long time. There's another great book by Dr. Blaylock. Russell Blaylock's a neurosurgeon. And the other book that he wrote is Health and Nutritional Secrets That Can Change Your Life. Okay, and I love that book because he starts out in that book talking about when we get exposed to chemicals and excitotoxins and things that's out there, that what ends up happening in our world is now we start creating a little thing called free radical damage into our bodies. We actually start playing asteroids with our cells, not only on a cellular level, but on a molecular level within that cell, meaning our mitochondria, meaning our body's ability to, the organelles that create other things, and the DNA gets affected, and now we start having a complete destruction because of those free radicals or the excitotoxins that we're taking into our body. So think about that. If you eat one Dorito, you end up eating the whole bag by the time you're done. And now you just put a bunch of excitotoxins into our body. Now we created a lot of free radical damage, and that now begins to break things down and create more problems. So with that being said, I'm going to just change one thing here. So I get sidetracked. I have a little ADD once in a while. Okay. So I like that. All right, there we go. Perfect. So when I started thinking about this a little more, and we talked about the fuel last week, in 1991, They put ethanol into our fuel. In 1992, we doubled respiratory therapists here in Arizona. Pretty crazy when we think about that, right? Increase of respiratory therapists, we end up having some problems kicking up, and that really creates a problem where now what ends up happening is we have free radical damage again occurring. And that free radical damage, we call it oxidative stress. Okay. And oxidative stress is the cause of all disease processes. So whether it's a situation where we're coming through and we're having our body destroyed by different things. So one of our biggest oxidative stress, and I had a little cartoon, I didn't get it put up today. I'm going to actually post it here in a little while on Facebook. But it's actually a pretty hilarious little cartoon when I started thinking about it, because this is something I always tell people. Our main food group in the United States is bread. Okay, we like bread. We all eat bread, and it's actually, we think it's great. So that's one of our main food group. But there's a picture of this little cartoon. I'll put it on Facebook here in just a moment. But I just want to share this with you. It says this. Okay, if I can get my phone to work correctly, the high carb diet I put you on 20 years ago gave you diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. Oops, sorry. Okay. Now, how many of us are eating a lot of carbohydrates? How many of us are eating a lot of breads, a lot of pastas, a lot of things like that? Okay, 2 words, stop it. All right. Why do we want to stop that? Because that's actually slowly breaking our body down. And if it continues to break our body down, it creates that free radical damage or that cellular damage on a cellular level. And if we have that cellular damage level, we don't heal as well. Okay, so depending on how long you've been eating a bad diet, depends on how quick you're going to have a change in your life. If you've been eating a long time, it's going to take a little longer to make that change and become healthy again. Okay, if you've just been doing it just a little while, guess what? Change that direction and you're going to heal a lot quicker. So I, thank goodness, was a sick little guy at 7 years old when I seen my first chiropractor, because I'd been through the medical field and they wanted to do surgery on me. And thank goodness I went to see a chiropractor who said, hey, we got to change your diet. We got to change the direction you're going. Now, trust me, I didn't want to eat vegetables. I prefer to have ice cream. That's my favorite food. And in fact, it's a food group I think I said last week, and I'm going to say that again this week. It's my favorite food group. All right. But what I found is that because I changed my diet years ago, now when I do certain things, it's easier for me to get where I don't get in those bad habits. I can get out of those bad habits. Once in a while, I can have those things and enjoy them, but not have that problem. So carbohydrates, or gluten, as we want to say. Now, gluten, I want you to think of that word, gluten, okay, glue. You're gluing things together, right? When you have gluten, just think about how sticky it is. And so what it does, it creates problem. Gluten is one of the most harmful foods that we eat or intake, or excitotoxins, whatever you want to call it. And so when we take gluten into our body, what it does is it upregulates our digestive process. We break that down quickly because it's a simple carbohydrate. And now we cause our blood sugar to all of a sudden spike. Okay. Type 2 diabetes is the number one disease that's on a rise here in the United States. It's more debilitating. It's the most debilitating physiological disease, type 2 diabetes is. Okay. What I mean by that, something that we're taking into our body, this is what's creating the problem. The most debilitating disease and most disabling disease in our body is low back pain. Guess what they have in common? They actually have the fact that most people are not eating a good diet. That's what we're having a problem with. So we need to change that. So gluten, when we get into gluten, the chemical composition, when it breaks down into the body usable, it breaks down and the body thinks it's a thyroid hormone. It thinks it's a thyroid hormone because it has the same chemical composition, or similar, not the same. It has a similar chemical composition as thyroid hormone. So then the body starts using it instead of saying, instead of saying, okay, this is our thyroid hormone, we can differentiate it. It wants to use this more accessible source of the gluten molecule. So now we end up seeing diseases with the thyroid more than ever. We see more Hashimoto's disease going on in our world. We see hypothyroid, hyperthyroidism. All those things are occurring now because of gluten in our diet. And so what we need to do is start thinking about how do we reduce the excitotoxins that are occurring in our diet. How do we reduce that noise in the cell on a cellular level? First we need to start with our diet, right? That's where we start doing that. So our first thing we need to do is start taking in more good complex carbohydrates. That comes in the form of vegetables, guys. Green leafy vegetables. It comes in the form of things like broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, those types of things. You need to start adding into your diet. Last week I talked about, I'm going to just reiterate because there's a lot of things. I don't want to reinvent the wheel because the wheel's already been invented, but you need to have between 5 and 8 servings of vegetables every day. If you're not getting that into your body, guess what? You're having some struggles. You're not getting those proper antioxidants through our diet that's going to help. And then we end up having problems. So those antioxidants destroy our cells, they destroy our organelles within the cells, and they destroy our mitochondria within the cell. So we'll talk about how we're going to repair that here in just a few moments, okay? The next thing we want to look at is when we come through that whole situation there and we're having that destruction is we need to add fats back into our body, okay? Thyroid hormone, guess what it's composed of? Fat, right? And we need fats in there. All of our hormones, male and female hormones, they're composed of fats. All of our cells, outer lining of our protective areas of our cell are composed of fat. We need to get good fat in. Now, ice cream is not good fat, even though it's good tasting, okay? But what we want to do is we want to look at what type of fats do we need to get in. We get in omega fatty 3 acids, okay? Those are really, really important. They come in different forms. I have used a lot of those over the years, and I find that when I'm working with kids that have brain problems, okay, those excitotoxins that's going on in their brain, if they're having brain problems, we increase their fat levels, okay? That helps them start functioning better. The brain is 60% fat. And so that fat protects our neurons. It protects our cells. When those cells start getting demyelinated, they can lead to things like MS. They can lead to things like Lou Gehrig's disease. They can lead to things like Parkinson's. So realize we got to have good fats coming back in so we can start rebuilding those neurons, those protective insulating factors that go around the nerve. So we don't get those shorts in our system, in our brain when we're trying to think of something and do something. So, avoid things. If it comes in a box, if it comes in a tin can, avoid drinking it, avoid eating it. Those are the rules, right? Those are excitotoxins. They're foods that kill. If it comes out of a garden, that's great. If you can grow your own garden, you should. If you can't, get as organic as you can from the store. Other things is good quality proteins. Proteins are the building blocks for our body, all right? When we eat good quality proteins, we want things that are good in omega oils if we can get them. Make them as good as you can. Fish is one of the best things to eat at all times. And I tell people that's going to not only give us some of the proteins that we need, but it's going to give us the fats. So coming back into it, brain allergies. Anybody have any brain allergies? You ever have a stupor of thought? How many people have fatigue from their brain? They get by the end of the day and they're trying to remember what they did. I got home at 12:30, got to bed about 1 o'clock, and got up at 6 and was on my in the office seeing patients at 7:45 this morning. Okay. And why? Because I had made a prior commitment to be there. Okay. And I love the fact that I can help people. But today I actually had an opportunity to see a young lady that's suffering from depression and anxiety. And one of the things we talked about was the things that I'm talking to you guys about today. Okay. So depression and anxiety creates problems because, one, we're not utilizing fats to help the neurons work correctly, but also we're not intaking proper food. Now, we talked about her diet. That's the first thing I talked to her about. And one of the reasons I talked about her diet is because I wanted to know what she eats. And she thought her diet was pretty good. And by the time we got done talking about it, she's eating a lot of processed foods and a lot of food that comes from Mexican restaurants, okay, which is high in carbohydrates. So we started talking, we needed to change a few things. So we talked about diet. That's the first thing we talked about. Then we talked about her gut health. Okay, so another thing that when we end up with our brain allergies, or we end up with those toxins such as gluten into our gut, or we end up with those things, we end up with problems with our gut. It starts creating a problem called leaky gut, okay? And leaky gut, normally, if I'm gonna hold my hands up here, you guys see how tight my fingers are together right there? That's what the junction should look like in your gut lining. With leaky gut, what ends up happening is they open up and they allow particles that are undigested to be absorbed into our body, okay? And they start creating problems because those particles, when it gets into our system, into our blood system, and it starts getting processed, it's not broken down into a usable form. And then all of a sudden, our body kicks up and says, hey, we've got a foreign invader in here, and it creates a problem. And so we start having an autoimmune response, all right? We start creating white blood cells. We start creating other things to get rid of the toxins or the pathogen that's got in the blood that the body's trying to identify. So it starts trying to kill it off. It starts trying to get rid of it. But guess what happens? It doesn't know how to do it. So then it keeps calling on more white blood cells. And then we end up getting achy joints. We can't move. We end up with depression and anxiety. We end up with ADD and ADHD problems with different people. Everybody will present a little differently. We end up with digestive issues, okay? And we can end up with the factor of just the whole system being so overstimulated that we now end up with an autoimmune disorder such as rheumatoid arthritis, or possibly you could end up with something like cancer, or you could end up with something like an autoimmune disorder such as MS or SLE. So when we start looking at that, realize when we are ingesting food, we need to be thinking about what are we eating, how are we eating it, and is it breaking down? So with that being said, I'm going to actually come back in to how do we fix these problems now? Okay, so there is the brain-gut connection. There's the eating the good foods and doing all the things we already talked about. But realize that Dr. Blaylock said the number one cause of all disease processes in the body is called free radical damage, okay, or oxidative stress. Now, he wrote that book years ago. He's a well-known neurosurgeon out of Oklahoma. He's actually only did surgery on 10% of his patients, okay, which is really crazy. How did he fix the other 90%? Through diet, nutrition, and doing things that created a difference in their life. Okay, that's where he started. He says, we're going to start at the easy things and let's get rid of it. Because you know what? He could do surgery on those people. And guess what would have happened to those people? They would have ended up with the same issue just down the road. It would have just been amplified. We always see somebody, they get a knee replacement, and a few years later, they get the other knee replaced. And then they got bilateral knee replacements. Why is that? Because they still didn't change the problem that was creating the reason for the first knee replacement. So we need to do that. So free radical damage. We are involved in a company, and there are some amazing things like vitamin C, vitamin E, and things like that are supplements that will help reduce the inflammation in the joint. Zinc will help. Iodine will help. All those things will help reduce inflammation in our body. But guess what? That's supplementing. What if I told you guys right now, we have an amazing product that's out there that literally flips on the switch of a protein in our body called NRF2 that now turns on that switch to increase the body's ability to make its own antioxidants. Is that pretty cool? We can now, they found through scientific research and study that they can flip on the switches. And we have nutritional products that now do that. Trust me, this is big time research because they're trying to make medications that flip on those switches. But what's the problems every time we make a medication is it has a side effect that comes along with it. And so what we're wanting to do is kill the body as naturally as can. So I use a nutrition, and I love the fact that it's able to flip on that switch and start reducing oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. And 70% in 120. And whoever invited you to this webinar tonight, I want you to get back with them and ask them more information about that because that's really, really important. So the next thing is, remember I told you not only is the cell getting damaged or the oxidative stress is creating that, but all those little organelles inside the cell are getting damaged, okay? And when those little organelles inside that cell are getting damaged, we have mitochondria in there. We have different things that's creating those problems. So when we get in there and we start having those damaged, now we have to come in and repair those. So they have, with all the research that's going on, And the more research, we are getting quicker at researching and looking at things. They found actually that now what we can do is flip on that switch that creates a protein increase, a pathway called NRF1, okay? And that our NRF1 pathway will come in and start repairing the mitochondria. Now the mitochondria, you have 1,000 mitochondria per cell approximately, okay? Plus or minus in that. And those mitochondria, when they need repaired, those are our power plants. Anybody tired? Anybody fatigued? Okay. It's because we don't get enough mitochondria or enough ATP, adenosine triphosphate. I wanted to say that word because I paid $100,000 to learn it. So when we come through and we start looking at that and we start saying, okay, here we are, we got this ATP kicking up, and now that's our energy in our cells. So we want to get that going. So NRF1, again, I want to have you get back with a person. We can flip on that switch. We know how to do that, okay? And then we've learned how we can amplify that or make it louder and get it working together more synergistically. And that's through a product here recently being researched called NAD, okay? So NAD there's a lot of buzz about it here lately, but NAD increases our serotonin genes, and what it helps is just everything function more efficiently. Okay, so I think Dr. Brimhall put it the best here recently when I heard him say, so if we look at NRF2, what we look at in NRF2 is the sanitation department, right? Taking out the trash. All right, if we leave trash in our house, it gets stinking, right? We don't want to have stinking trash in our house. It makes it not where we want to stay in there. How about if we actually had all of our power shut off? It's starting to get warm here in Phoenix, Arizona. Guess what? We shut off the power. It's not going to be fun when it gets hot, right? Because we don't have air conditioning. We can't survive without it. I'm sure we could, but we don't want to, okay? Maybe that's what I should say. So what if we didn't have the mitochondria in our body to have the power plant there? And the last thing is the NAD, which is kind of the guys that kind of help things work together, our protection factors that increase that protection factor. And that's would be our police department. What of those don't you want in your city or in your life? Okay, if that's something you have to deal with. We need all of them. We need the sewage department. We need the sanitation department. I mean, we need the power plant, and we need the NAD to help control things and get things where it needs to be and upregulate it and make it work more efficiently. One of the other things I want to talk about is that leaky gut we talked about a little earlier, and that's coming back into healing our gut. All right. If we have a gut issue and we're having some gut problems going on in our body and we're sitting here, we need to get probiotics back into that area. Okay. The gut is where 95% of all serotonin is produced and 50% of all dopamine. Serotonin, we know, is an antidepressant. That's how we best know it. Okay. It's what they use in most antidepressant medications is they upregulate the serotonin levels. But when you give it synthetically, it has some adverse effects. Okay. But when we get your body to flip on and start making it itself, guess what? It's amazing what we'll do because it's in charge of 90% of functions of the body. All right. Dopamine, which we know is deficient in people that have Parkinson's. Okay. It is involved in several functions of the body, but one of the biggest functions is muscle movement. Okay, if you ever seen somebody with Parkinson's, they are very slow and rigid. Their muscles get very tight and they can't move. So what we want to do is help regulate that through the gut. So 50% of dopamine is produced that. So we need to now be putting good probiotics back into our body. Amazing thing is, through this company that we are involved in, we have a probiotic that I've used probiotics now for over 27 years. I actually started using them, and I used to put things on a live cell microscope and show people how it worked. Okay. But now what I can do is I can actually give them a nutrient, and I know that they're going to get about 80 to 90% of their probiotics delivered to them. Okay. Because of the technology we have on our new probiotic called ProBio. And what it will do is it has a BioTrack technology that protects it to get through the stomach acid and into the small and large intestines where it needs to be. Okay. So when we can do that, now we start getting our protective factors in there. We start getting our good bugs back in there. We start getting those go and grow. And that's really, really important. But the other factor that's in this probiotic is Wellmune. Wellmune's amazing. It upregulates your immune system. It comes in a form of beta glycans, which are really, really cool. When we upregulate that, it makes a big, big difference, and we can start helping our immune system be protected. But realize probiotics need to be fed. Okay, our probiotics need to be fed, and so they need to have proper nutrients into them. I'm sure some of you have heard about kombucha and all different things like that. Big industry right now. People do kombucha to help feed their probiotics and make their probiotics more healthy. Well, you know what? An average kombucha is about $5 for a little bottle you buy at the store. Is about at Sprouts is about $5 a bottle. Okay, that's crazy. You can make your own, but why should we do that when we actually have an ability to have a prebiotic and we give it all the nutrients that it needs? Lastly, on this portion, I just want to talk about our immune system. It resides in our guts. 70% of it does. Our company has came out with an amazing immune system booster, which I just love because we want to upregulate our immune system. And so one of the things they came out with is a thing called Daily Wellness. And I love this product, because I was sitting with Dr. Brimhall when he actually presented it at one of our Saturday trainings. And one of the things that he shared with me was some of the studies that they seen with the fermented yeast extract in it. And he talked about how the people that worked in the plant, literally putting that into the products and packaging it, that they actually had less sick time from work. They had healthier bodies, and they were able to avoid illnesses and things that came around on a regular basis. And I thought that's a pretty cool deal. They did 8 studies on it, so realize we've got that. So when we look at things and we're looking at gluten, I'm going to just tell you guys what you got to do. Stop avoiding things. This book right here, Excitotoxins, The Taste That Kills. I love Grain Brain. If you guys have never read Dr. Perlmutter's Grain Brain, amazing book. I've heard him talk several times. He actually shares a lot of important information. But guess where him and Dr. Blaylock start? They start with our diet. So I want to tell you guys right now, you need to change your diet. Then you need to get the proper good nutrients in. I had a lady in my office yesterday. I was talking to her. I hadn't met her. She had seen my other doctor and my nurse practitioner. And I went in and introduced myself. She says, how's your treatment going here at our office? She says, I'm not getting great results. I don't understand. I hurt all the time. I said, okay, tell me what's going on. How's your diet? We talked about her diet. It sounded fairly good. I says, how about nutrients? What are you taking? She had been getting nutrients from a big warehouse place. I won't say its name. You guys can just make up your own mind on it, okay? And she's getting them because, you buy bigger, by and large is better, right? And so she's getting these, and she had been on them for 7 years, and she has been experiencing knee pain and has continued to experience knee pain, okay? Now, what I went and discussed with my doctor and my nurse practitioner, I says, we need to have a discussion. When we have somebody like this, we need to talk diet changes like we talk about, and we need to turn around and talk about doing nutritional changes. So what did I do? I put her on those things that I just talked about. I put her on the sewage guy, the sanitation department. I put her on the power plant department. I put her on the police officer department, and got them working together, okay? I went and changed her omega-3 oils and gave her a better omega-3 oil because I wanted to start breaking that down and getting it working correctly. So guys, it starts with you. That's the only person can make a change in your life. I can't make a change in your life. I can't make a change in anybody that you love's life either, unless they want to make that change. So change your diet, get on good supplements. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of confusion out there of what to take, but I'm telling you, we got answers. So the person that shared this with you and had you at this webinar, or if they share this with you in the future, get back with that person, okay? And ask them how they can help you become healthier. Hey, I'd just like to thank you guys for the time here, and I'm going to turn it back to Dr. Brett.
I was just giggling at you. So fun to listen to. Oh my goodness. But I'm just curious, guys, throw up in the chat, but how many of you learned something tonight? Learned something or reminded of something, and maybe had a perspective like, oh my gosh, no wonder I've struggled, and no wonder my friend has struggled, right? So we're going to give you a couple minutes where you can ask the question. So if you have a question for Dr. Hatch, why don't you just unmute yourself a second and ask the question, and we'll let him answer. We got to watch Dr. Hatch because we try to keep this short, but you get him going, man. He can't stop. He can't help himself. But you can tell he's passionate about helping people.
Question. I eat sardines at least 3 times a week, and most of the time I can find them canned. Are they really harmful, or are they packed and they're premium quality, but they're canned? And you're saying not to eat anything that's canned. How toxic is that then?
You know, I mean, there's going to be things that's going to break down from that aluminum that's in it. I love sardines, okay? I was raised on crackers, cheese, and sardines. That's what my dad used to take for us to work all the time when I was a kid. So there's metals that break down. There are things that break down and create problems. So do it sparingly if you do it. You're taking things that's going to detoxify. Okay.
Any other questions?
There's a question in the chat. Has anyone had good results with NRF2 helping with allergies?
You know what? Yes, there has been. In fact, I actually have a little guy that actually came in here a while back. He's had really bad allergies for quite a while. Actually, it's been a year. A while back to me sometimes can be 10 years, so forgive me. But he came in here a year ago with really, really bad allergies. Realized that the immune system's in the gut, and that's actually what we actually worked with. We put him on the NRF2, and we put him on, actually, believe it or not, Axio, a drink that's with this company. And it was really amazing because it actually helped him get the inflammation down on his brain, and also helped reduce oxidative stress on the brain so his nervous system wasn't overreacting.
Yeah. Yeah. So NRF2, as a side note, it literally, there's multiple studies that if you guys want to have some fun, go to PubMed.gov and type in Protandim, or excuse me, NRF2 specifically, and like allergies, or NRF2 and leaky gut. So there's direct studies showing improving NRF2 function has effect on healing the gut. And even just the Axio alone has quercetin in it that has significant effect upon the symptoms that come from environmental things like allergies. And the new product, Daily Wellness, I've had multiple people actually within like 20 minutes have significant reduction in symptoms just because of some of the things that are in the product. And somebody asked earlier, how bad is mercury, Dr. Hatch?
Oh, I tell you what, mercury is really, really bad. We don't, actually mercury, believe it or not, they put it in our immunizations. Mercury actually interferes with our cells on a cellular level, so it breaks down the mitochondria. It creates a lot of problems. Once we get heavy metals toxicity in there, it can create problems, especially with our brain, and create memory, and actually accelerate the Alzheimer's process a little bit.
Another good one, and I'm glad you brought that up. So go to PubMed.gov, type in mercury and Parkinson, mercury and Alzheimer's, or heavy metal and Alzheimer's. You'll see the correlation. Yeah. Hey, Dr. Hatch, I want to thank you so much for taking your time. As I was sitting back, I was thinking, you know what, here's again a video that's, practiced all day, been in practice for 27 years, giving up of your time to share with us. And I've, just like you, I see patients every day that have struggled for years or decades, and have done what they best they can. They're going to big box stores or Amazon, trying to find things to help find solutions. And so we're grateful, guys, that someone invited you here. As a group, we really want to be part of a solutions-based organization that give a place that gives you information that might help you. Because I do know that personal responsibility and accountability is number one, but if you're not even taught the right things, or even told what possibly could happen if you don't change your diet, or there are better solutions, then you're still stuck. So thanks, Dr. Hatch, for taking your time and sharing your expertise with us. And if you're watching this replay, get back to the person who invited you to this, get your questions answered. And we're here to help you the best we can, to help you stay healthy and function ideally. So one lady asked, what should we change for diet with depression, anxiety, and mobility? It's really everything that he just said. Because you're talking about all of that ties into nerve function. All right, guys. So have a phenomenal evening.
Thanks for watching. And remember, one change can have an enormous effect. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell and the like, and we'll see you next time on Love to Live.